Shalom, dear friends. That's how one of my Hebrew teachers from Hebrew University used to greet his online classes as we studied biblical Hebrew together. So, welcome to this instructional video. It is going to be kind of a tutorial about how to download and utilize a free Bible software program that's available to you on the internet, and I would like to give some basic instruction about how you can download that program and utilize it. It is called eSword. eSword is not the Bible software program that I use most often. Some of the ones that I use most often are unfortunately not free, and I've paid hundreds and thousands of dollars for programs and resources through these other Bible programs. I use one called BibleWorks that has been around for many, many years, but a couple of years ago they went out of business. And so although that program still works for me, there's no support and no updates or upgrades for that program. I also use Olive Tree software and also Accordance software. Those are my favorites, but they are among the most expensive. I rationalize that by being in the pastoral ministry business and doing research for books that I write and so forth. But I want to talk to you today about eSword, the free Bible software. My instructional video is going to be very basic and quick and dirty. So if you would like a better instructional video on this, I have one that I can recommend for you. Let me pull it up for you on the screen right now. This is a YouTube series by one of my Hebrew teachers. His name is Izzy Avraham. He is the founder and principal teacher of a ministry called Holy Language Institute. He is a Hebrew teacher himself, and he has a 40-session Hebrew language course called Hebrew Quest, and just tons of resources as far as the Hebrew Bible is concerned. One of the things I love about Izzy is that he is a Messianic Jewish man. That means although he is of Jewish background, he is also a believer in Yeshua, in Jesus Christ, as his Lord and Savior. And so he presents all of his teachings from that perspective, and it's a great blessing. You can go to his website, Hebrew Language Institute, and become a part of that. It does require a $20 a month subscription, but for somebody like me who is very interested in Hebrew language and biblical things, it's well worth the $20 a month. Now, this video that is about to play on YouTube is the first of a 5-session tutorial similar to this one, but in much greater depth about how to download and utilize eSword for a PC, and I think also for a Mac. He has a separate 5-session video series on how to download eSword onto your iPad or iPhone. And so you'll find those very useful. I encourage you to check out Izzy's videos if you're serious about using eSword and want to go a little bit beyond the basic instructions that I'll be giving you. But if you are interested in getting this program, eSword, first thing you'll want to do is do probably a Google search or some kind of a search on your computer. And all you need to do is type in eSword, eSword, and the first result that you'll get is the website for this free Bible software program. And this is what it looks like on the internet. Now, if you want to download eSword onto your PC computer, this is your download button to do that. If you are interested in downloading it onto your Mac computer, you'll need to scroll down a little bit, and eSword X will do the trick for you. If you're interested in downloading onto your iPad, then you'll want to try eSword HD. Here's the download button, and for your iPhone, eSword LT will get the job done for you. Now let me take you to a screen share that will show what will download when it comes onto your computer. And the program looks like this, with one exception. Usually when this program starts up initially, it will have a tooltips thing that's really kind of useful. There's probably 10 or 12 different tips on how to navigate your way around eSword. I have gotten tired of looking at that pop-up window every time I start out, so I eliminated that, but it can be called up at will if you're interested in looking at those tool tips. Now, what I want to point out first of all about this program is the semi-permanent windows that you see here. I'm going to start over here on the left, and I've got a table of contents for the Bible, and this is how you navigate from one book of the Bible to one text to another. So I'm going to click on Genesis 1, verse 1. And that will take me in this window, kind of central and on the left here, to the text of Genesis 1:1 and following. Now, since I selected Genesis 1, the first verse that's highlighted here is Genesis 1:1 in, what is that, brown or green? And then all of the other verses in that chapter are in teal or blue or green or whatever that is. Now, as I read through this chapter, with each successive verse, the the different reference there will light up as being the central one. Now, in this window on the right, I have Bible commentaries. Those are kind of insights and interpretations by important Bible scholars. So you'll notice that I've got Genesis 1:4 highlighted here, and over here in the commentary window is the commentary for Genesis 1:4. If I change back to Genesis 1:1, then my commentary goes to Genesis 1:1. Now, all three of these windows, you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner, there is a pin in each one of those windows, and the pin is pointed down. When the pin is pointed down, then these windows become semi-permanent in the program. So every time you open up eSword, these are the three windows that you're going to see. Now, if I would click on this pin and turn it sideways, then that feature or that window will only come up when I call it. Now, over on the left-hand column here, I also have a dictionary feature, and you probably noticed when I put my cursor on that item, then the dictionary window opened. But up in the upper right-hand corner of this window, the pin is sideways, so that window only appears when I call it. And here in Smith's dictionary, I have an article in that dictionary about genealogy. And I can pick, since I have the topics open, I can pick any subject that I want. If I want a dictionary article on Gentiles, I click that. If I want a dictionary article on Jesus, I think I can probably find that as well. If I scroll down through here and come to the J's, I can probably find something on Jesus, since he is kind of an important figure in the Bible. I'm having to scroll down kind of a long way to get to Jesus. Or let's look up Jesus Christ. So here's an article on Jesus Christ. Now, if I'd clicked on Jesus, you'll notice that Jesus is also the name of an Old Testament character named Joshua. Joshua and Jesus have the same name. So that's the dictionary function. But since I don't want to look at a dictionary window all the time, if I move my cursor out of this dictionary window, then that window will disappear. I also have an editor's window here. I'm not even really sure what that is. So when I move my cursor away from that window, it disappears as well. Let me show you how to look at some other resources. It turns out that the Bible window that I'm looking at here is a version of the Bible called the Tree of Life version, TLV. This is one of my favorite versions of the Bible. It's a Messianic Jewish translation. And I have other versions as well. I have the King James version of the Bible. There's the old King James. I have some more modern and up-to-date versions. There is the ESV, or the English Standard Version, that has come out recently and is very popular. It's an excellent translation of the Bible. Some other things that I have available here are Hebrew versions of the Old Testament and New Testament, since Genesis is in the Old Testament. I can call up the Hebrew text, and here it is. And for those of you who have not studied Hebrew, that may just look like a big mystery to you. But I also have a Hebrew version of the Old Testament that has Strong's numbers added. That's what the little plus is for there. So I can call up that same text, and for every word, there is a lexicon explanation of how to pronounce that word and what the meanings of the word are and how many times it occurs in the Bible and so forth. So that is really kind of a helpful thing for each one of those words in the Hebrew Bible. I will also show you one of the nice features of the Bible window, and that is your ability to compare one version of the Bible with other versions of the Bible that you've downloaded and that are available on your computer. So if I'm interested in Genesis 1:1, in the Tree of Life version, but I'd like to see what that verse looks like in other versions of the Bible, I just click on the compare function here, and you will see that now I have Genesis 1:1 in the American Standard Version, the English Standard Version, the English Standard Version with translator's notes. Here are my Greek Old Testaments and so forth. Down here is the Tree of Life version and so forth. So let me go off of the compare. I'll go back to the TLV version. One of the other features that is on the Bible window here is the little scrolls that are along the right side of the page here, and those are bookmarks. So if I hover my cursor over bookmark number 1, you'll see that it is already bookmarked to Genesis 1, chapter 1. That's the text we're on now. The second bookmark is bookmarked to John 3:16. So if I click on the 2, it's going to take me to John 3:16 in the New Testament. Now I'm looking at a different Bible verse, but if I want to see what the other versions have when it comes to John 3:16, I can do compare. I can also navigate to another book of the Bible. I'm going to pick Matthew chapter 1, verse 18. That's the story of the birth of Jesus Christ. I'm going to hit compare here. And here I have Matthew 1:18 and all these different versions of the Bible. And just about all of them are going to say now the birth of Jesus Christ, birth of Jesus Christ, and so on and so forth. There are the foreign language versions. But when I come down to the Tree of Life version, again, one of my favorites, it says the birth of Yeshua the Messiah. One of the neat features of the Tree of Life version, being Messianic Jewish, is that it uses the Hebrew names of places and people in the Bible and some other Hebrew references in an English Bible. So if you get the Tree of Life version, you can do a little Hebrew study, even if you haven't studied the language, and you can get to know these Bible characters by their biblical names. Yeshua is the same name as Jesus. In Hebrew, it means Savior. So that's the Bible window. I also have features on this of the Greek New Testament. I showed you the Hebrew Old Testament. Here's the Greek New Testament for Matthew 1:18. Again, here are all the Greek characters that if you haven't studied them don't mean much to you, but I have the same text there with the Strong's numbers so you can see what those Hebrew words are and what they mean. Now, incidentally, I have that same feature for the King James Version. So here is an English version of the King James, and it has the Greek words that stand behind every English word. And again, it gives you pronunciations, it tells you the meaning of the word, how many occurrences, and so forth. So that is pretty much all you need to know about that. One more thing I'll say about the bookmarks is that if I want to change any of these bookmarks, let's say to the passage that I have marked, Matthew 1:18, all I do is hover my cursor over the bookmark scroll and right click. And my right click will change that previous bookmark to Matthew 1:18. And when I hover over it, there we are, Matthew 1:18. Now let's go from the Bible window over to the commentaries window. That's the other one that I have permanently pinned here. This is a commentary by an individual named John Gill. John Gill lived quite a while ago when people were speaking in Elizabethan English with all the these and the thous. But John Gill's commentaries are really excellent and insightful. And that's probably my favorite one that I have downloaded here. You'll notice also in the commentaries, there are sometimes Bible references that are indicated in the text. And to keep you from having to look those up in your Bible, you can just hover your cursor over that Bible reference, and it will give you the actual text of that Bible reference in whatever version of the Bible you have checked out in the window. Also, I have commentaries by Keil and Delitzsch. Keil and Delitzsch wrote Old Testament commentaries. I have E.W. Bullinger, who is well known for his Companion Bible. These are some of his notes and comments. C.I. Scofield is the individual who wrote the Scofield Reference Bible. There are no comments indicated here, but if I would scroll down the page a bit, I think we would find something that C.I. Scofield has to say about this text. Jamieson Fausset Brown, or JFB, is a pretty well-known commentary. Don't know too much about F.B. Meyer. I usually just look at John Gill. So that's the commentary windows. Let me also spend a little bit of time just going through the various functions that are on the command line here that you might be interested in. If I click on the Bible resources, one of the things that I will get is a harmony of the Gospels. So now that pops up, and I have a text here that is only seen in Matthew. So that's Matthew 1, 18 to 25, the birth of Christ. That story only appears in Matthew's Gospel. But let me go to a passage in Matthew that is in more than one version of the Bible, and that's the Transfiguration. So let me click on that once again and see what we get here. The Transfiguration is told in 3 of the Gospel accounts, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And here is the story in those side by side. So you have a harmony of the Gospels feature that's really nice if you are studying the Gospels. There are functions to move to the previous chapter or the next chapter. You can click it here or use your function buttons. You can do the same thing with next verse or previous verse. There are functions to copy and print verses and so forth. And I want to click on Bible Compare settings. A little bit earlier, I showed you that you can compare various versions of the Bible on a particular verse. And this comparisons window shows you all of the it shows you all of the versions that will appear in that compare window. Now, if I don't particularly want to see some of those versions, I can just unclick those, and that way those particular items that I unclick will not appear in the comparison the next time that I call them up. So you just get to pick and choose the things that you want to see or not see in the comparisons. I think that's about all that's of interest in the Bible options. Let's look at the commentary features. Now, this is kind of cool because what I've got checked here is to display verse comments. So in my commentary window, I have verse by verse commentaries of that selected verse. But if I want something, like if I want to see what John Gill has to say about the whole chapter of Matthew 17, I can just click on that and I will get chapter selections. If I click on the book comments, then I get an introduction to the whole book of Matthew, not just limited to chapter 17, but a lot of detail on kind of the background of the whole book of Matthew. So I can either choose to look at the commentator's comments on the book, the chapter, or the verse. I think that's all you might be interested in there. We'll also look at the dictionaries. That is for this side window that we already looked at. You can turn the topics on and off. That's that little side window that lists all the articles that they have available. You can just use Control-T to turn that on and off. Let's look at the tools function. You can program this to have daily Bible readings. If you want to be on a through the Bible in a year program or something like that, you can do it with this program. You can have daily devotions, and I'll pop one of those up here. This is the daily devotion for April 3rd. There's a morning and evening devotion there. The morning devotion is based on John 19:16 and Isaiah 53:6. Now, I do notice that this devotions window is in a separate window, so I don't know if that's going to show up on your share screen or not. So I'll get rid of that right now. The reason I say that is because there is another really neat feature here that's called the graphics viewer. And I know that pops up in a separate window. So in order to share that screen with you, I'm going to have to call up that particular window. So I will do that now. I'll go to my share screen for the graphics viewer and share it with you now. Hopefully you can see that on your screen. I've got a number of different things here. I've got ABS is some maps of Bible time. So this is a map of empires around 1350 BC. Shows important biblical events. I can make that map bigger or smaller if I want to. I can make that map fit the screen either sideways or up and down. So I've got maps. I can choose the time frame. Like if I want to see a map about Jerusalem in the time of Jesus, I click on there and here is a map of Jerusalem. If it's a little hard to see, I can make that map bigger and I can move the map around on the screen and so forth. So these are maps of the entire Bible era. I also have a feature here for charts by a scholar named Clarence Larkin. And I love charts and I love maps, so I like having this feature. But one of the things that you'll notice about Larkin's charts is he has a lot of very small print on these. That's why it's nice to be able to blow these up and to be able to see what that small print is saying. He has charts on many subjects in the Bible. Let's look at one about the tabernacle, which is the Old Testament worship facility. I'll get this down a little bit smaller so you can see the whole page of what the tabernacle looked like, the layout, the various furnishings and stuff like that. I can make it bigger. I can make it fit the screen up, sideways or up and down. There are also timelines, a timeline feature. This is what the whole page looks like. Let me blow that up a little bit so I can see the era. This would be the era of the Exodus from Egypt and some of the things that were taking place on the timeline. And again, I can move this timeline in any direction I want to, or I can choose any period of history that I want to, like, for example, the life of Jesus. Let me shrink that down a bit so you can see the whole thing. It goes from his birth to his death and resurrection and ascension into heaven. I can move that around, fit it to the screen. I can make it bigger or smaller. So that is the graphics viewer, and it's a really nice feature to have. And on previous videos that I recorded, I called up the graphics viewer and it did not show on my share screen. So I had to share that as a separate window. It opens up in a separate window, and now I'm going to close that window down. And I will try to, let me see, I will try to get back to the share that we were looking at before. Let's see. Okay, there's our eSword. That's where I wanted to be. Last thing we looked at was the graphics viewer. There are options for the reference library and so forth. I want to look at the download feature to show you how to download resources on eSword. Let's start with Bibles. So I'll click on Bibles and you will get a window here. Again, this opens in a separate window. Let me see if I've got that on my share screen. There it is. So you should be able to see that now. I hope you can see that now. And you can see here on this window that it has a lot of different versions of the Bible. All of those are available free of charge. Now, the black ones are the ones that I have already downloaded. The ones in blue are the ones that I have chosen not to download. So all of these are free downloads. Now, if I go down a little bit further, there are some versions of the Bible that have to be purchased, like, for example, the New King James Version and the New International Version. If you want to purchase those, you'll have to pay for those. I don't really know how that's done because I've never paid for any of these. But if I, say, wanted to download the New King James Version, I would just click on that and go through whatever pay process they have. And then New King James Version would appear in this bottom window, and it would download, and then it would just show up on my program. So that's how you download Bible versions. It's the same with commentaries. Here are the commentaries that are available. Again, the black ones are the ones that I have downloaded. The other names and of the resources here are the ones that are available that I haven't downloaded, and there are some that are available for purchase. One that's available for purchase is by Finest Dake. It's the Dake's Study Bible notes, which are excellent, and I would probably have been willing to pay for that if I didn't have his study notes on most, if not all, of the other versions, other Bible software programs that I have. So let me cancel this. It'll probably cancel all of my sharing, and go back to our Bible program, hopefully. Share that. Yes, there we are. Okay, so that's how you download things. Um, I will also talk a little bit about some of the options that we have. Display settings is how you can set the different kind of the light brightness and things like that on your screen. If I go with daylight, then everything turns white. I kind of like the lamplight version because it's a little easier on the eye. And then if I click low light, that will take me to a black screen with white writing. Now again, I don't know if display settings is showing up on your screen. Doesn't look like that's a separate window. But you may not see that menu, but at any rate, that's how you can change that. There's also one for font settings. So it takes a few minutes for the font settings to come up. These are the various fonts that are available here, a drop-down menu of all the different fonts that are available. You can choose the size that you like, either bigger or smaller than what I have. And if you have original language texts, you can pick your favorite font for those as well. So you can change your display settings, your font, the app theme. You can change basically it's the borders or the the borders, I guess, on this program can be changed from blue to silver to black. Blue is the one that I like best, and so I've chosen to keep that one. There are a variety of different functions there as well. When you go to window, you can opt to show all the windows, and that's what I've done. So that's the one that I've checked. So the windows that I have showing every time I start up this are the ones that have the pins pointing down because I've put those pins down. Now, if I should decide that I only want to see the Bible text window and not necessarily see the commentary window or my table of contents, Bible books window, I can click Bible Maximized. And then basically all I'm going to see on my screen is the Bible text window. I can do the same thing with commentary or dictionary or editor as well. There's also a help menu here. Here's the tip of the day information. Technical support, if you need some help from the eSword factory about problems that you might be having. There are training demos on the program. So that would be kind of the same thing that I've been giving here, only with much more expertise. Izzy Abraham is also a good source for training demos and so forth. And let's see if there's anything. I think that is about all I wanted to share with you with this program. As far as bang for the buck, this is about as good as you can do. Just abundant resources that are available to you free of charge, a nice, functional Bible software program. Like I say, there are others that I use, but they are more expensive and could be very expensive depending on the number and cost of the resources that you download to use. But as far as free Bible software, I think this is about as good as it gets. So I hope you will download and at least give eSword a try. Try it long enough to get pretty proficient at using it, and then you can kind of decide whether it's a good deal or a bad deal. So with that, let me go ahead and call an end to this video. I thank you for tuning in, and hope it's been helpful and valuable to you. Shalom.